in the preseason only play about 5 to 10 plays, and then they leave. They go sit on the sideline, do whatever they have to do. Well, these starters are on the sideline and they're eating food. And typically before a game, I don't eat because my nerves are just too bad. And so I didn't eat that day, and the food was starting to smell real good. I'm not going to play, so I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to get something to eat. I started throwing down on hot dogs, nachos. I think I had some Skittles, some other stuff. Late in the third quarter, special teams coach comes to me and said, hey, Davis, you're going in. I said, whoa. Now, mind you, I had never practiced kickoff. This is on kickoff coverage. I had not practiced this. I was not even on the depth charts on special teams. That's how far down I was. So when he said to go in, I had a decision to make. I'm not feeling good. I don't know the plays. I got a belly full of hot dogs. Should I go in or should I tell the coach, Coach, I don't want to go in. I'm not ready. I thought about that. But I said, you know what? This might be it. This is my only chance to get into this game and try to make a play. I need to be seen. I got to make myself noticed. So I go in on kickoff coverage. They put me in right next to the kicker. Ball's kicked. Run down the field, and I make a tackle. Bam. That one tackle got me noticed. After that play, the coach said, Davis, you're going in on the next series. Next time we get the ball, you're going in. Now, before I went in, and after I threw up, I did throw up. Hot dogs all in my chest. I said, you know what? My coach, I don't know the plays. We're on the sideline in the Tokyo Dome. It's not dirt. It's AstroTurf. But he's got his Sharpie marker. He's got some other little things, and he's drawing plays like we used to do when we were kids. We're on our knees, and he's like, Davis, this is the next play. This is what you have on this play. And that's what he's doing to me before I go in. I go into the game, and I play decent. Game's okay. But after that, they started giving me more and more reps. And then things started to take off, and I started to have a pretty good sense that I think I'm gonna make this team. Well, that year, I ended up making the team. Not only did I make the team, but I started the first game of my rookie year, and I beat out 6 other guys in front of me. And all these guys were drafted, and I was drafted as well, but these guys were already established players. And that was a pretty big accomplishment for a guy who was drafted in the 6th round, found a way to make the team, and actually start on the opening day. Now, I don't fumble. I don't fumble. So after that, I had a decent year, right? So rookie year, had about 1,000 yards rushing. Our team was 8-8, and everything was okay. But I noticed something at the end of the year. I noticed that the play of, I guess, myself was not as good as I thought it could be. And I started looking around the locker room, looking around the team, and I started looking at players. And I started to identify the players on our team who I thought had a championship mentality. You know, who had a champion's mentality, who looked like guys that bought into football, that were there every day, guys that felt like football was important to them. And I identified a few players, and I was like, man, I've got to be able to take my game to another level. I tried as hard as I could, but what I didn't know at the time was that I didn't know how to take my game to the next level. I had to watch other players do it. So I decided to look at other players like John Elway, Shannon Sharp, Rod Smith, Tom Nalen, Mark Schlereth, Ed McCaffrey. And I looked around at them and I said, you know what are they doing that make them so good? And I started looking at them and I noticed there were a few things that they all had in common. And I started to take notes. And I'm like, okay, man, if they can do that, then I need to be able to take that same idea and adopt that into the way I play. And the first thing I noticed that all of these players had is they had a belief that they were good. They had a swag, if you will. And I started looking at players, and I was like, okay, I see the way he's walking. And even though John Elway walked funny, he's got his bow-leg knees. I said, John, but he had his swag about him. You couldn't help but to notice that. And you would notice the players who were good players, and you would notice the players who weren't. And the players who were good, they carried themselves with a level of confidence that just was through the roof. And so I tried to adopt that philosophy. I said, you know what, TD, you've got to take that philosophy. Even if you don't believe it, then you have to fake it. You heard the whole saying, fake it until you make it? So I took that philosophy. I'm gonna start faking it. So I started walking around the locker room like I was all right. You gotta walk around there like you belong. You gotta feel good. And the most amazing thing happened to me. It transformed my play on the field. When I believed that I was good, the results came. When I didn't believe I was good, the results didn't come. And it was a magical moment that it just helped me to just be confident in my ability. Now, it didn't happen overnight. There were still some moments where I was being tested and was challenged. Where you go out there, you think you're good, but all of a sudden you get tested and you start to shrink a little bit. But I did notice that about all these players. Their ability was super strong. And one time, during the off season, I was down at the Super Bowl. And I was at the Super Bowl, and it was Barry Sanders, he was down there, Marshall Faulk, Emmitt Smith. All the great running backs were down at the Super Bowl. And I remember looking at those backs and thinking to myself that I could never be like them. I'm looking at all these backs, and I'm thinking, that's Emmitt Smith over there. Like, I can't be like Emmitt. I'm serious. I'm looking at Emmitt, and I see Barry, and I meet Marshall, and I meet all these backs, and I don't feel as confident with them as they do with me. You can see they walk around, and you can tell that these guys are accomplished, and I didn't quite have that. So I had to learn to try to build that, and after a while, I did get that back. The other thing that I noticed that all these players had in common was that all these players didn't let their lack of talent dictate their level of success. Let me repeat that. They didn't let their lack of talent dictate their level of success. What I mean by that was we all think players in the NFL are the most talented players out there. Surprise to you guys, they're not. And it's not being mean, but you look at players and you assume, okay, Shannon Sharpe is super talented. I don't think Shannon is that talented. No, Shannon's a Hall of Famer. But talent alone is not just the key. There's other things that factor into the talent. For example, Cleveland Browns, right? Why you laugh? You think Cleveland's a talented team?
Yep.
No. Huh? In the National Football League, talent from team to team is about this. The margins are so thin. It's not the talent that makes the difference of a team. It's the collaboration of talent. It's the fact that you have players who work together. They work hard. They study. They know how to play as a team. They do everything right to win as a team. But it's not just about talent. When I watched Shannon, I saw Ed McCaffrey, I saw Rod Smith, I saw guys who were just working hard. And guys who who didn't sit there and say, you know what, I'm not as talented as that guy. They saw that as a challenge. I'm gonna go out there and outwork this guy. I'm gonna go out there and outcatch him, outblock him, outrun him. Use this, effort. It don't take talent to use effort. And when I saw that, I said, okay, I see what these guys are doing. I see some effort. I see that talent does not limit you. Because I was doing everything with talent, I thought, in my first year. And I felt like I tapped out. I couldn't go any further. I thought I had reached my ceiling. But talent is just a little bit of the bigger picture. So you can grab that talent, include the attitude, you can include working hard, the mindset, the belief, studying, all those things. It takes you to a whole different level. The third thing I saw from these guys was they all had a desire to practice. Practice, practice, and practice. Now I gotta be honest with you, practice was not my strong suit. I hated practice. Are they shocked by that? I hated it. I was that guy that would show up. You know how people say he shows up early and leaves late? I show up late and leave early. That was my philosophy. But when I realized that you have to practice, it is very important that practice is really the key to success. And if you don't practice, it gets exposed when it's time for you to play and it's time for you to put your talents or whatever you have to do on the field, on television, where you have to display it, it gets exposed. Now, my talent only got me so far, and my practice abilities weren't that great. But there was a game in 1995 that told me that I have to practice more. We were playing the Oakland Raiders. It was a Monday night game in Denver, and my coach always says practice with pressure. And I never understood what that meant. I would just try to practice to get through it. But practicing with pressure prepares you for when you play on a Monday night game or in a Monday night game on that stage and people are watching you. So we played this game, and all week it was the biggest game of the year so far. I was a rookie. It was the Oakland Raiders. That's a big rivalry. So they were talking about Raiders. And it was so much pressure that when I played in that game, I had my worst game ever. I couldn't catch, I couldn't run, I couldn't block, I missed assignments, had the worst game ever. And after that game, it was kind of a wake-up call that you have got to take practice serious. And practicing with pressure does two things. When it's time to play, when the pressure's on the line, you're gonna be more immune to it. You're gonna have a habit of practicing with pressure. So then you don't feel it once the pressure's actually put on. And that actually happened to me again in Super Bowl 32. Well, this time the outcome was different. We were playing the Green Bay Packers. They were 14-point favorites. We played in this game, and again, it's a pressure-packed game. Denver Broncos don't have a chance to win this game. Our third season. I know going into this game, I am going to get the bulk of the carries. If we win this game, it is going to be because of me. If we lose this game, it's going to be because of me. How would you sleep if you knew that was would you sleep good? You wouldn't sleep real good, would you? No. But what I found out was when I was, every day at practice, I would practice with that on my mind for 2 years. That game was played 2 years ago. So when we played the Packers, the night before, I slept like a baby. Slept like a baby. Because I had already seen that game played. I had already prepared myself for the pressure in practice, in games. And John Elway was the one that taught me how to do that. Now, he didn't teach me and say, hey, TD, this is how you do it. I just watched him. And that's why John was so good at fourth quarter comebacks. In practice, he would always have something at stake when we would do our drills. When we do our drills, we have to go 90 yards for a touchdown. There was always something at stake. And that built this man into a machine to where he could handle pressure when pressure came. So I watched him, and again, I learned from John. And I just tried to mimic what he did at practice. And so the night before the Super Bowl, slept like a baby. Next day, we eventually won that game. Beat the Brett Favre Packers. They were a good team, by the way. But we were a better team. I know Packer fans out there are mad about that. I see you guys all the time. I do not apologize for beating the Packers. I'm sorry. We would do it again if we had to play them again. but that's the thing. The other thing is that a champion, as I call my teammates and the guys that I've watched, were guys that they inspired other players. When you inspire somebody, you got a whole team that's inspiring people, man, that is a powerful tool. I saw John Elway. I use John a lot because that man was a powerful person. After my first year, we had, I guess, their off-season workouts. You guys know of the mandatory, voluntary workouts they have in the NFL? Yes, they're mandatory, voluntary. So they make you think that these things are, well, they tell us that they're voluntary. However, they treat them as if they're mandatory. So you guys notice that when a player's not at their off-season workouts, you guys read it in the newspaper, you know, Antonio Bryant didn't show up, Odell Beckham didn't show up. Well, he has a right not to show up. It's not mandatory. But they make it seem like it's mandatory. So anyway, my second year, I go to the mandatory voluntary workout, and I walk onto the field. I'm going into the building, and I happen to look on the far field. Now, really, the workouts are for guys who are either young players. It's kind of mandatory for the younger players. The veterans don't really have to come to this thing. If they want to, they can show up. But veterans rarely show up. So I go there, I walk on the field, I look kind of to the far field just to see what those guys are doing, because we have two workouts, a 7 a.m. and a 10 a.m. I'm on a 10 a.m. and there's a 7 a.m. that's working out right now. So I want to see what they're doing so I can prepare myself for the workout. I happen to look over there and I see a guy running, shirt off, older dude, trying to run upright, knock knee. And I was shocked to find out who it was. I said, is that John? So John was in his 13th year. He was out there at 7 a.m. working out with a bunch of rookies and first and second year players at a voluntary workout. This man had gone to Pro Bowls, he had gone to Super Bowls, but when I saw that, I said, I can't do any less than that. So John didn't have to tell me to show up at 7 a.m. I voluntarily went. I said, I'm taking my 10 a.m. workout, I'm going to the 7 a.m. workout. I'm following that dude right there, because he inspired me to work harder. He didn't have to tell me anything. He didn't say a word to me, but just by his actions, he inspired me to work out. Shannon Sharp. Shannon and I were good friends. Off season. Again, this is off season. This is 3 weeks after the season is over with. We had just finished my first year. I called Shannon up. Shannon lived in Atlanta. I said, Shannon, I'm coming to Atlanta to hang out with you. He said, cool, come on. I said, all right. I'm thinking we're going to go to Atlanta, have fun, go to the nightclubs, do what we do, party, have a ball. I get out to Atlanta. He picks me up, go to his house. The next morning, I wake up, and it's probably 8 o'clock. Shannon is coming in at 8 in the morning. I said, man, where'd you go? Oh, I went to go work out. Work out, man, it's the off season. You guys seen Shannon? Does he look like he has any days off? The man, boy, strong. So again, I see Shannon working out like that. What is that telling me? I've got to follow what he's doing. He didn't say wake up and come work out. He just did something. I saw what he did. That just affected me and allowed me to go see what he was doing. The next thing is, all these things have in common, all these guys and champions have in common, is these guys are resilient. I look around that room and I see a lot of football players. And I'm like, okay, guys like Mark Schlereth. Mark Schlereth had over 20 surgeries. He had a surgery on a Saturday one time, and he played on Sunday. That's pretty resilient. A guy like Howard Griffith. Now, Howard was my fullback. He would do a lot of blocking for me. I see Howard blocking, and a lot of times he wouldn't win those battles. First quarter, Howard's not winning, and I feel bad for him. But you still got to block Howard. But Howard would stay at it. He would just be relentless, go back and over, and he'd lose the battle, lose the battle, lose the battle. Fourth quarter, Howard's bouncing back, and now he's starting to get the best of the player that's been getting the best of him during that game. I mean, that's being resilient. That's bouncing back. That's not just accepting that. In football by itself, in nature, you have to be resilient. You lose a game, you've got to bounce back. You know, you can't just sit there and just think about, all right, we're just going to sit there and just wallow. No, you've got to bounce back. And the teams that bounce back are the teams that we see in the playoffs and the Super Bowl every year. Who saw the Patriots get beat up in week 1? But they were resilient. They bounced back. Some teams take that loss, and that loss just travels. It just stays with them for the whole year. It takes them 3 to 4 weeks to shake it off. But teams, the good teams, are the teams that are resilient. And those qualities I see in some of the players that I played with. Other guys I saw, I call this eating your broccoli. You guys like broccoli? You do? No cheese on it. Oh, with cheese? Butter on broccoli? All right, I don't like broccoli, okay? Be honest with you. But I eat broccoli. You know why I eat broccoli? Because it's good for you. It's a superfood, right? We all eat it because it's good for us. That's the same thing to be said about football or things you do in your own occupations, right? You do things that you don't really want to do, but you have to do them. I call that eating broccoli. In football, working out, I told you, I didn't like working out. I told you early in my career, I didn't like studying. I told you there's a lot of things that I didn't like doing. I didn't like going to, if it was a Friday night, I didn't like staying at home to review the game plan. I wanted to go out. But I realized that if you want to be good, if you want to be a champion, you want to be great, you've got to eat your broccoli. And that's a lot to be said in your industry, in anybody's industry, whatever you do. There's going to be a lot that we don't want to do. How many times we get called, your buddy has to call you to get you up to go do something that you don't want to do. But the more and more you eat that broccoli, the more and more it starts to taste palatable. Not good, just palatable. The same thing we said about football. So the last thing that I attribute to sort of helping me grow and to be the player that I am today, well, I was. I'm not that player today. I can't play, but I was something that I call embracing the rope. And the rope is an acronym. Now this is a real big one in sports or anything you want to do. This is called, you ready? Responsibility. Okay? Obligations. Okay? What's the other one? Pressure. Expectations. Okay? So that's the rope. And what that means is there is a saying that people are afraid, or you can be afraid of success. You guys believe that that's possible? Yes? I believe that too. And I didn't think that was ever possible. I never thought about the term afraid of success. Now we all want the things that success brings, right? You want the money, you want the option to be able to, travel. You want all the things, the perks that comes with success. But there is a downside to it. And that's what it is. It's responsibility, the obligation, the pressure, the expectations of success, which I had never thought about until it happened to me. Until when I was rookie year, second year, I noticed over the years, things started getting bigger and bigger, started having more success, started realizing that, wait a minute, people are starting to expect things from me. There's pressure that is building around me. There's certain obligations that people want me to live up to. When that happens, it is a real thing. You don't want to embrace that. And I shied away from it. I didn't want it anymore. I just wanted to just go and be myself and just be able to just perform at a level that's right here. So that I'm not too good, I'm not too bad, I just want to be right here. How many people in here just want to be right here? You can raise your hand. Your boss ain't gonna say nothing. It's okay, but it's real. And I feel good that I was able to identify that was something that was holding me back. Because I didn't know what it was. I was holding myself back for a minute. I didn't know why. But then I realized, I know what it is. I don't want to be in the limelight. I don't want the attention. I don't want to be scrutinized. I don't want any of that. But that held me back, and that would hold you back from success. I got a buddy of mine who's been with the same company for 28 years. 28 years. He will not take a promotion because he's comfortable. And I said, well, why don't you, dude, you've been in 28 years. Like, you should be right now. You should be a manager. You should be the boss. He said, I don't want it. I said, why? He said, my life would change. Yeah, in a good way. Nope. That means I have responsibilities, right? I got pressure. I got obligations. There's expectations. He's got a comfortable life. He does not want to ruin that comfortable life. You guys will be shocked at how many NFL players who feel that way. They don't want the pressure of having the ball when the game is on the line. They want a uniform. They want to dress up. They want to look like a football player. But when you say, you're up, we need you to play in this game, they don't want to play. I had a buddy of mine, he was drafted out of Ole Miss, first round pick. Came to Denver, and his whole goal was to make not the practice squad. He wanted to make the 53-man roster, but not be put on the 46-man active roster. That was his whole goal. I'm not lying. This is real. One day, we have our game. We got a running back who was down. They call him up. John, you got to go in. He's in his locker. I didn't know what would happen, so I walked over, and his locker's right next to mine. I'm putting my pads on, getting ready to play. And I look at him, and he's over there. He's fussing out loud. He's mumbling. You can see on his face he's not happy. I said, John, what's going on? He said, man, they got me dressed today. I was shocked. I'm like, they got you dressed today? I'm like, you should be happy. John didn't want no parts of being dressed on that Sunday. But that is real. That rope is real. But when I started to embrace it and started to not fight it and say, just go for it, enjoy it, you're in a unique position. A unique position. Enjoy everything that comes with it. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything is when I felt my career started to take off to the next level. Because I was no longer sitting there telling myself to hold back or try to be right here, try to be right in the middle of the road. I embraced it. And thank God I did, because I enjoyed it. I enjoy it all to this day. So those are some of the things that helped me in my career that I've been able to identify with players that I played with. And I've used those things to remind me today when I'm doing things, whether it's business or family or friends. I try to use those principles to sort of keep my life at a level where I feel like it's the highest it could be. So I thank you guys all for having me out here. I'm going to answer some questions for you guys. If you guys want to ask some questions, thank you guys out. You guys got questions?